course on Lake Champlain, and he hopes to complete his certificate soon. He loves to make movies. He talks about movies. He'll tell you what the best movie is and the best cinematography. He's written a movie review column for 2 local newspapers in Vermont. Eric has been accepted by his family and friends, and he's adored his whole life. Because of this, he has thrived. And now he's passionate about the passing the values of acceptance on. Paying it forward, if you will. An opportunity to ask all of us to accept rather than tolerate people with autism. Eric is learning meditation, and he's working on a film about how meditation can help people with autism. You can see more about Eric's unique and valuable perspectives, and I've studied and looked at his YouTube videos on Raid Master Prod. His YouTube videos are spectacular, and the work that he's done on film. But I think when we hear from Eric, you're going to realize that don't judge someone with autism. Don't put them in a category, and don't ever limit their possibilities. I'd like to introduce you to Eric Nahn.
Throughout world history, especially in these recent times, we have heard about tolerance as a way to combat prejudice. It does seem like a noble thing to do unless you look up the key word, tolerance. If I look up tolerance on the dictionary app on my MacBook, one of the descriptions I find, and I quote, is to endure with forbearance. So in reality, when we tolerate each other's differences, we are doing just that, tolerating, without any understanding or knowledge of why this person is different. And I know that is not the road to peace. And I must confess something. I too am guilty of this tolerance. The civil rights leaders of 50 years past knew it 100%. Whether it be Dr. Martin Luther King of America or Nelson Mandela of South Africa. But back during their time, the news handled news as that. News. Back during your times. Remember the good old days in which they handled news simply as news. Walter Cronkite, need I say no more. Fast forward to the present era, you should think that a generation raised by honest newsmen and women would continue the tradition of honest newscasting. As one may tell by the over-sensationalized news of doom and gloom, which barely scrapes the surface of the recent man-made disaster, the answer is no. Look no further than the terrorist attack in Charleston, South Carolina. There, no one got the big picture mark until Jon Stewart of The Daily Show talked about it and said, no jokes. How does this relate to tolerance? Because with this new generation of newscasters, I feel that we have become immature in terms of morality, only promoting tolerance in a culture which constantly seeks to blame without decent thought or respect. You might know some of these newscasters without me mentioning them. In fact, in an episode of South Park, which some of you might view as a rude cartoon on Comedy Central, it actually parodies this culture of blame and pettiness in which the lewd acting transsexual Mrs. Garrison, who has been acting up so she or he could get fired and sue the school, he ends up winning an award for courage, and at his acceptance speech, he states that to tolerate something doesn't mean you have to approve it. And he goes on to state that the Museum of Tolerance, of which he is accepting his award, should be retitled the Museum of Acceptance. That brings us to the main point of my speech, the idea of acceptance over tolerance. You see, with tolerance, we're only tolerating the differences in our cultures, but our grudges of those differences will always remain. I have admitted previously in the speech that I too am guilty of this, especially with some of my roommates, past and now. But anyways, we force ourselves to bear with things that the majority finds annoying, like bratty eye-rolling teenagers. No offense to those teens out there. While there are some annoying things that do have to be eliminated, anyone can tell you that, believe me. But things like the tics of an autistic person trying to get his mind together are things that have to be there for the benefit of that one person. Things, for example, that when I'm in a daily speech, sometimes I ended up saying things like that's my way of getting my brain back in track. In my mind, this shouldn't be tolerated, it should be accepted. The media of today has rendered our levels of judgment to that of short-sighted simpletons. And the sword of judgment is a double-edged sword, one that should be used by the most mature hands. And yes, more people can become more worthy to wield this sword of justice if we cut this tolerance crap, pardon my term, because that's what it is, crap, once and for all, and instead focus on more accepting who all of us are, whether it be black or white, autistic or neurotypical, it does not matter. But that is what civil rights icons such as Dr. King, Mohandas Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, and of course our Pope Francis, to name just a few, would have wanted. For all creeds not to tolerate our difference and not to make the divide worse over time, but to accept and unite all the people as those who wrote the words, all men are created equal, upon the Declaration of Independence over 2 centuries ago would have wanted. And that, my friends, is a road to peace and progress in our chaotic world of today. Thank you.